we get to the final episode of Season 1 already. I hope the one who watched liked my episode talk. I try not to have as much repetitions in it. But since I am trying to make one video a week, it is tricky sometimes. Especially because some topics are more important to me than others. Anyway, I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. Since it is more time-consuming than I thought, I will concentrate on these videos, and not make that much music videos. But I still have my list and some new songs too. So please be patient. About Nolan's fate. I like that they're keeping us in the dark as long as possible. It is not that suspicious that Emily is not worried because she thinks Nolan has everything handled, and so she concentrates on the evidence against Conrad. I love this opening sequence. The close-up on her beautiful brown eyes and her screaming and fake fear. I just cannot get enough of those scenes when she is fooling Daniel. He is just such a hilarious easy target. The fact that Daniel is lying to her instead of telling her the truth about the evidence is another reason why this relationship is over. They both now have just too much secrets before each other. Though it bears any logic because Emily just called Nolan. I love the installation the white-haired man pulled up for Emily. He has some kind of style. I assume he likes to play with his prey because it makes his job a little less boring. That she revealed her true identity to him can only mean that she still was determined to kill him so he could not tell anyone. If Conrad's story about the initiative was really just an act, then he played it very well. Because with his assumption that the bugs were planted by that organization, he really made Victoria afraid. I think the writers did not think this through and just wanted a way out of this plot by the end of Season 2. So as I said, I for myself prefer to just ignore this kind of plot. About Emily going with Gordon Murphy. It was very brave of Emily facing Gordon alone. First, I know she had not that much choice, but she got there without a weapon or a phone to call the police or an ambulance. I guess she truly learned from Takeda how to turn anything into a weapon, as she demonstrated Margot in Season 4. Second, she trusted the white-haired man enough to let him drug her so that she did not know where his hiding spot was. Third, I do not know why, but I was impressed as she drugged herself. Now she was totally helpless and he could have done anything to her, not just chain her like he did. It was also a nice way of putting a new significant flashback with little Amanda and David in. I loved the funny but also disturbing conversation between the three. Nolan was funny as always, but the dry humor and sarcasm of Emily and the white-haired man was not that bad, too. All three actors were in top shape in this scene. If YouTube lets me, I can cut the scene in so you can watch firsthand what I mean. This smile of him and the blink, if I did not know better I would think he likes her. The fact that she had a second lockpick sewn in her sweater is a really great testament of how prepared Emily is for everything. It must have been really hard to screw her over even when she is not revenging anymore. I think any criminal or burglar would have regretted very fast when they had targeted Emily or one of her friends. I love this embrace and his phrase "kick his ass." I use this a lot for my Nolan and Emily videos. They are just so adorable in this scene. He in his white t-shirt with the bloodstains and she in her black sweater. Reminds me of one of those bad splatter movies from the 80s. Only that the roles are reversed. She is the heroine who saves him and he is the one who is forced to leave to save himself. But he has also the big task of taking Conrad down with the evidence they found. I must admit that I was very disappointed that they made no real use of that mystery. What was on those hard drive would have been a far better hook for Season 2 than the pointless goose chase after Emily's mother. By the way, I was so intrigued by the idea of finding Emily's mother that I was very much disappointed how it played out when they found her. No offense against Jennifer Jason Leigh and her play. All the scenes with her in it in Season 2 were just fabulous. But I was just hoping for more and more substantial plot here. I mean, they had nice flashbacks, but more than that, she was very ill, troubled and sorry for what had happened we did not get from here. Very disappointing. About Conrad's plan marrying his mistress Lydia. Funny that he does the same with Victoria in Season 2. Shows that the writers run out of new ideas in Season 2 because this plot was shallow in the first place. It is not only the trope of a businessman making the same mistake over and over again by marrying his mistresses. Conrad tries to neutralize the two women, because if they marry him they do not have to testify against him. So he can solve two problems at once. He buys their loyalty and also has a new playmate for his bed and a socialite for public appearances. About the fight scene with the white-haired man. This was my favorite fighting scene of the show, though there was not that much actual fighting in it. I try to remember, but I think we had at least one major fighting scene with Emily in every season. In Season 2 it was the one on the boat to save Fauxmanda. In Season 3 she fought with Nico Takeda's daughter to save Aiden. And in Season 4 they had that major fight scene with Malcolm Black and his daughter Kate, which I enjoyed nonetheless. But this one was the first and Emily showed of all her moves, though sometimes it appeared more like a dance than a fight to death. Mostly I enjoyed the opening with her waiting for him with this axe. She looks really frightening with her evil look and that murder weapon. Like an evil ghost from a horror movie. The stunt with the fire extinguisher was a nice trick and delayed the end of this fight sequence. But I did not enjoy the actual physical contact here because it felt very much choreographed. Her fight with Kate in Season 4 was more spectacular and even longer. Seems Gordon Murphy is not in a good shape, or just not that good enough to face Emily. Though it was a bold move letting him walk freely. I love how they made Emily change her mind. After the flashback and everything else we know about David Clarke's character, he would not want Emily to do that, and that is the one thing that has not changed. Spoiler alert. Even after David comes back in Season 4, he always tells Amanda that he not wanted her to take revenge and kill people. He even does not want her to kill Victoria after everything she has done to her. I love their final conversation that she came to honor her father and Emily says she just did. As a professional killer, Murphy cannot think about anything else than killing. Like the Old Testament, an eye for an eye. But Emily always wanted to make the punishment fit the crime, so taking his life or the life of Conrad is not enough. The people who destroyed her and her father's life should live in pain and misery. That is the right punishment for Emily. About Emily's and Daniel's breakup. I like that Daniel finally has the guts to confront her, and I was happy that she finally told him as much of the truth as she could. Till Season 4 this was the most honest conversation between the two. About the technical aspects of the scene. I like that they switch between having Daniel and Emily blurred. Like while they're speaking, any of them likes to take a hold on each other and get a clearer view of the other person. I also like that she is waiting to turn around till he asks the most important question for him. A behavior that we see often when Emily is talking with someone and feels ashamed or does not know how to tell the truth. For example, when she is turning down Jack in Season 4 for the last time, she is showing her back to him because she does not want that he sees her cry. In this scene it is like Romeo and Juliet, even though Daniel does not know that. She is the daughter of David Clarke, which makes her the natural enemy of his parents. And as a Grayson, Daniel is the son of Emily's greatest enemies and her final revenge targets. This love story could not have ended well for any of them. Through the scene was filmed very conventional. I like the tone with the warm fireplace in the background and the icy windows. And all those white sheets over the furniture really gives you this feeling that something special comes to an end. About the conversation between Gordon Murphy and Conrad. It is interesting how smart this guy is. Too bad they not kept him around for longer. I was already cherishing him. That he recognized Amanda from the picture and did not blue her cover must have meant something. And that he is noticing her camera and showing it to her by blinking was in the same way mysterious, disturbing and funny. About Victoria and Daniel in the finale. As I hate to see Daniel taking his father's side against his mother, I love to see her finally breaking free of Conrad. And at least try to undo the things she set in motion 20 years ago. That she is so much devastated by the fact that Conrad killed David is something that surprised me. Not because I doubt that she truly is, or at least thinks she is still in love with David. No, I cannot understand why she did not have one suspicion all these years. She must have known how jealous Conrad was about her affair and how easy it would make everything for Conrad and his conspirators if David was dead. What I did not expected was Daniel's reaction to this new truth. Instead of being disgusted that his father killed two men, he says that he must have had a damn good reason. What is going on in his mind? Is that really his opinion? That if you have a good reason you can go around and kill people? Or if he assumes it was for love, that it is okay to kill the lover of his unfaithful wife? In my opinion, Daniel deserved far worse than that little slap in the face. And his lame attempt to excuse his father's deeds and his own wrongdoings, that they do this for the sake of the family, is just so thin and transparent. But I love Victoria's answer. That was maybe the best of her speeches throughout the whole show. About Nolan and Emily celebrating with champagne. I always liked this little tradition they introduced here. That Nolan and Emily were sitting together after a successful takedown and held a little private party. The more Nolan was involved, the more he was appreciated by Emily. And I love when he tells Emily that he is proud of her. Since she has no parents left, this genuine appreciation is something she needs, maybe in the same way as Nolan needs hers. And even though I am still not a big Emily fan, I loved how Nolan pushes her again in this direction. And Emily is head over heels after her phone call with Jack. I knew that there would be some major roadblock, not only after Victoria took a hint with her sentence about Emily's next endeavor, about Charlotte's revenge. This was something that made me think of Charlotte as some kind of mini Victoria. Using this kind of information against a classmate, which is not even Declan's girlfriend yet, is just so extremely bad. Charlotte is sitting on a very high horse here. She is the one who broke up with Declan and just expects him to be around and wait for her till she is finally ready to come back to him again. As I said earlier, I think it would have been better and far more interesting if Declan would have stayed away of Charlotte in season 2. I know they made a cute couple and she had made much progress after her therapy. But she was still a bad influence on him. And the ongoing drama with her family was something that you not wish to see or come around on everyday basis. About Victoria's engagement present. I always like to see a face-off between these two characters, though this one was very calm and civilized. I like the idea that Victoria waited so long to finally reveal that her engagement present was empty, and she knew all along that Daniel would ditch her. She definitely has some patience when it comes to vengeance. I think both women are that tame because they both are still content with taking down Conrad. Victoria is still processing the fact that Conrad killed David and relishes in her victory about her ex-husband. And Emily feels the pleasant anticipation of getting closer to put Conrad in jail and exonerate her father. And of course telling Jack the truth and starting a new life. As in any finale, they both are gloating too soon. Though I love Emily's reaction to Victoria, there is even a little admiration. I think she always enjoyed having Victoria as her perfect enemy. About Fauxmanda being back, I was already wondering when they would bring Fauxmanda back. Since they gave us the information that Takeda was securing her, I thought she maybe would come back and be Emily's trained and true ally. But sadly the writers had other plans for her. I love Emily's look at Jack from outside the bar. Like in some Dickens novel, the unhappy looks into the window and sees what she can never have but wants so badly. I also like the maritime theme with her navy blazer that looks like a sailor jacket. Emily looks so soft and vulnerable in this scene. It is a shame that Fauxmanda is not only back but pregnant. Because of Jack's character, that makes it almost impossible for Emily and Jack to find together in Season 2. So the cruel writers, like always, brought them together closer than ever just to tear them apart again.
Jack and I are gonna have a baby.
This is such a trope and so often used torture for the audience that I expected this since they kissed. Not that Fauxmanda was pregnant, that was something nobody could have seen coming, but that she was coming back to stir up trouble like she always did. I like that Emily and Fauxmanda with their curly hair look again like sisters. And it is such great acting of all the three that we see all the different layers. Fauxmanda's need for Emily's appreciation and the devastation of Emily and Jack. And maybe a little hint that Fauxmanda has a bad conscience because she has taken Jack away from Emily twice. By the way, I have fallen in love with this musical theme. It is Fauxmanda's theme and a really compelling mix of sadness and hope that fits both Amanda's. About Emily crying, I think there were only a few occasions when Emily was actually crying on screen. If I remember it right, we have first seen her cry in the flashback episode after she found Roger Halstead, who was willing to help her dead. Then we saw her cry when Sammy died and she broke up with Daniel, and now that her dream being together with Jack is shattered. In Season 2 and 3, I think she only cries when some character she cherished dies, which happened a lot in Season 3. In Season 3 she was more emotional, especially because of her breakdown after she was shot. And in Season 4 we saw a much more softer side of Emily and perceived she cried in every episode. Anyway, the times when we saw her cry in Season 1 can be counted with one hand. So this is more significant than in any other show. With this there comes another cherished movie series from my childhood in my mind. Some of my favorite fairy tale movie, Princess Fantagiro, has some bad magician named Tarabas in it. He is cursed by his enemy and fears to lose his malice. In the end he gets to know Princess Fantagiro, which is his downfall. 'Cause he has fallen in love with her and cannot be bad anymore. A stupid story, but you must consider it is a children's movie. Anyway, the first crack in his evil nature was that he was crying for the first time. So always when Emily is crying on the show, I think about this foolish story. In a way, Emily's armor becomes more cracks when she is crying. About Daniel drinking with Ashley. In my opinion, Daniel is taking the easy way out. Like Tyler said about Daniel at the beginning of the season, he is moving on and taking the next in line. I think because of his family's reputation and wealth, Daniel had never problems finding a new girlfriend. And drinking seems to be his solution for everything. He was drinking when he feared he could end up in jail for Tyler's murder. He was drinking when he thought he could lose Emily. What happened? In Season 2 he is almost the whole season drunk, and in Season 3 drinking seems to be the only thing that can make him survive the wedding with Emily. As for Ashley, I think she has always looked with one eye on Daniel. But because he was under Emily's spell, never dared to take on a competition. Now that Emily is out the picture and Ashley got nothing to lose since she has Conrad as her backup, she finally starts an attempt. About Charlotte and Victoria talking retribution. I like that they dive into the main subject of revenge. Even in season 4 I always thought that Charlotte was never a lost cause. Spoiler alert 1. If someone had reached out for her after Declan's death, that would have turned things around for her. But Emily was too busy with her revenge and Jack was not the right person to look out for her. Spoiler alert 2. He had just lost his wife and brother and had to take care of a baby. And Charlotte's parents always had been too busy in making each other's life hell. So the only one left was Daniel, who never showed that much interest in his little sister nor her problems. Anyway, it seems to be not only Victoria's mantra that revenge is just if the other party deserved, and if not you should forget about it and move on. Maybe that was the only way for her to live with her guilt. About Conrad's last attempt to keep Victoria from going on that plane. If I would not know any better, I would think that everything he says about the initiative and the danger they mean is just theatres. How else can you interpret his kiss goodbye to Lydia and the scene in which he seems to be very content by burning a photo of his ex-wife and mistress? Here in the finale it all seems to fall into place, but when you have seen the second season finale you cannot but wonder if he was not afraid at all. About Nolan's call. I love how they play with the fire in this shot with Emily and the infinity box in the background. A nice foresight to the exploding plane and an even better reminiscent to the plane crash in 1993. It is so nice that Nolan thinks Emily and Jacko are already marrying. As if that would be the first thing they do. As we see in season 4, they have less romantic and childish fantasies than a secret wedding. And I just love Nolan's reaction. He knows exactly what that means for Emily's state of mind. So he says the cult phrase, "Do not do anything revengey until I get there." About the end montage. This was just perfect. The lyrics and the energy of the song in combination with that plane going down. I loved that they showed Gordon Murphy was involved again. That makes it absolutely clear that he was also involved in the plane crash back then. And that Victoria wore white while everybody was in black was a nice foreshadow of her death. It also showed how she sees her status as an innocent victim. In season 4, when she faced Emily, she wore white again like a lamb going to slaughter. About Charlotte's suicide attempt. It is not fair that she is still bothering Declan. He already told her that he wants nothing to do with her. I know you can say he was awful hard, but she was behaving like a little bitch all the time and showed her worst behavior. So what did she expect? She could have turned to her brother and even to Conrad. Anyway, I think this suicide attempt was a classical cry for help. Not only because of the death of her mother, but because of her failed therapy and the unsolved problem with her addiction. It was just too much for her. I myself was more than once in this position and always pulled back from the abyss, but some people have to fall to stand up again. That Conrad finds his unconscious daughter is a fitting punishment for him. 'Cause he thought not 1 second about his daughter when he planned Victoria's death. About the prospects for season 2. As I said earlier, all the things they rolled out for season 2 were as much anticipated as deceptive. Emily's mother turned out to be a very disturbed and fragile person. American Initiative was just an annoying and ever-coming-back plot like in the movie Groundhog Day. And as for everything else that could have been on the hard drive, we just do not know because nobody has told us anything. So in short, I am no big fan, in fact not a fan at all of season 2. But since I want to do this in chronological order, we have to deal with it from the next episode on.